In Matthew chapter 17, verse 14, while Jesus and the disciples were surrounded by a crowd of people, a man comes up to Christ and he kneels down to Christ and asks for Christ's mercy because he has a son that has seizures. And the man said that he went to the disciples, but they couldn't heal the boy. So Jesus asked for him to bring the boy to him, and Jesus healed him. And the disciples saw that Jesus healed the boy, and they asked him, why couldn't they heal him? And Jesus said, because they lacked faith. If only you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you would be able to tell that mountain to move and it would move. You would be working in the power of God. So what it tells me is that when you have faith, God grants you access to his power. And because they had no faith, they were cut off from his power and they didn't have the ability to heal the boy. And it's not so much about having faith the size of a mustard seed, because your faith shouldn't be that small. But Christ is just making a point that if you just had a little bit of faith, you would have been able to heal the boy. But your faith should not remain the size of a mustard seed. You know, Christ used a mustard seed because it was the smallest seed known during ancient times. But the thing about a mustard seed is that it grows into a fairly large plant or bush. So it's not that your faith should remain the size of a mustard seed, but as you grow spiritually with God, as you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, as you continue to walk with him, your faith should grow just like a mustard seed grows. So through tests, through trials and tribulation, through storms, your faith should be increasing, your faith should be growing. And the more you increase that faith, the more you can walk into the power of God, the more you have access to his power. So it's all about increasing your faith, walking with God so that we can fully walk into his power, that we can be fully tapped into and have access to the power that he has for us. And when we don't walk in that faith, when we don't have faith, we lose access to his power. We work ourselves out of his will. As long as you're walking within the will of God, you have access to his power. His power only exists for you in the circumference of his will. So if you are living or walking outside of God's will, there's no guarantee that God's power will be accessible to you. So it's about walking within the will of God in order to have the access to his power. And walking in that will is all about you having faith and you following his words and the things that he is teaching us. As long as we are doing those things, we have access to him. We have access to that power, which means we can heal, we can deliver. We can maximize those spiritual gifts that he has blessed us with. So remember, the message I'm trying to bring is that you only need faith the size of a mustard seed, but your faith should not remain the size of a mustard seed. It should be growing. As a baby grows, it's reliant upon milk, but as it gets older, it starts to need food of substance. It starts to need meat. So as you grow in your spiritual life, your faith should also be growing alongside that. So that's just a message that I wanted to get across. Continue to stretch that faith. Continue to grow that faith. So we're no longer at the size of a mustard seed, but we're at the size of a fully grown plant. And I can only imagine the amount of power we'll have access to when we reach the size size of a plant. But I thank you guys for checking out this video. I'm gonna have more content on the way per usual. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.